What's up, buddy? How's your portfolio doing?
It looks not great. I can tell you that right now. But overall, we're still way, way up.
Uh,
I'm
well,
serious,
from
man.
from when to when? Like from
Yeah.
history,
No,
we're
no.
not
So
way up in the last few months.
no, no, it's been bad. But what I'm saying is like those weren't realized gains anyway. But imagine if you retired in like, you know, January or December, and now that's not ideal. But I mean, that's the market, man.
You better be diversified.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a complicated subject, but I mean, I think most people know or realize that, you know, I'm talking about like gains over time, particularly since 2008. I mean, the
Oh yeah,
Dow
it's
is,
been great.
it's been amazing.
It's been
So,
amazing. But what
I would call it an adjustment to reality.
the reason I asked you isn't because I wanted a history of your
Oh,
gains over time. We all know you've done. Everyone who watches this knows you've done extremely
oh,
well
for
and
God's
are
sake.
quite wealthy. We all know that. What
Right.
I'm saying is specifically, we are down since election day.
Yeah. I mean, we're way
And
down. Like I said, reality is set again, right?
we're off 10% since the president was sworn in on January 20th. And it's not a coincidence. It's not like just a normal correction. It's clearly because of this yo-yo back and forth on tariffs and also the thought that the labor market is softening and that it's possible that a recession is on the horizon. In fact, Trump himself was asked about it over the weekend, wouldn't roll it out. I just think it's interesting times. They were saying today we're in a transition period economically. But the issue with this market correction isn't that, oh, we're just having a market correction. As you pointed out, those happen all the time.
Yeah, they have it all the time.
It's that this one appears to be self-inflicted. And
Maybe.
there's no clear sign of how we get out of this if we don't maybe change course. And it's interesting because I'm very interested to see what the Trump administration is going to do because I really think this is the biggest crisis they have faced in their short time in office. The other stuff, it animated people and people got upset about certain things, no question, but this affects so many more people
Oh my
because
God, yeah. Well, is
so
it well,
many
that's the
people are in the
misnomer, right?
market.
Is just that like rich people are invested in the stock market. No, I mean whether it's your 401k, whether, pension funds all around the country are heavily invested in the market. I mean, this doesn't affect everybody, but it affects a lot of people.
Right. There's still time to back away from the abyss here. I do want to give some credit today because I don't know if you saw this, but Trump announced he's going to impose these tariffs on Canada. And he already did with steel and aluminum. And the governor of Ontario, I think it's governor there in Canada with the provinces, it was going to announce a 25% surcharge on electricity that Canada provides to some northern states, Minnesota, New York, among others. And today, there was an announcement late today that he put out with Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and they said that he's going to pause that. Trump is going to pause the tariffs he threatened today on Canada when he heard about this, and they're going to negotiate an update to the USMCA, which is the update to NAFTA, before the tariffs on Canada are set to go into effect April 2nd. So my hope is after what has happened in the market over the last few weeks, the kind of mini bloodbath we've seen,
Yeah.
that cooler heads will prevail. We still have a little time here until April 2nd when most of these tariffs are supposed to go into effect, and hopefully they'll be able to work something out.
How could
Because,
they not know this though? That's just so dumb.
well, the thing that really is frustrating, particularly when it applies to Canada, who is one of our biggest allies and our biggest trading partner other than Mexico.
And we're
I
trying to
forget.
buy them right now, so maybe be
Right.
nice.
Trump wants to make them the 51st state. Is literally what we're talking about here is an agreement that the Trump administration struck in his first term, which was the USMCA. And that set most of these tariffs, these trading arrangements that this administration now is so upset by. But I just think it's interesting that we still don't know if Trump really means it on these tariffs or if it's just a negotiating tactic. And I don't know if he really knows, but I just think it's interesting that as we continue to go down this path, this whipsaw back and forth, whiplash,
Whiplash.
seesaw, whatever
Yeah,
you
that was
call
a
it.
whipsaw that you
The
just gave out.
whipsaw back and forth it's clearly affecting the markets. It's affecting consumer confidence, and it may be driving us into a recession. I think we're playing with fire, is my point, for no good reason. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, look, obviously I'm not an economist, but I did have a conversation with the gentleman in the deli that always gets me my usual, which is Italian with everything, hot peppers. And
And he's an economist.
no,
No,
he's
he's
not an
not an economist.
economist.
Okay, all right.
He's a small
He
business owner.
knows an economist.
Very nice man. No, what it was I wanted a bag of barbecue potato chips to go with my delicious Italian hoagie. And
Okay.
I don't help myself when I say things like this, but I normally don't really look at what things cost. But I did happen to notice
We know that. We're aware.
on the potato chip bag that it was $2.79. And it's not, look, I don't know what goes into making potato chips, but all I know is I remember being a child and buying a bag of potato chips for like 50 cents. What are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
and I know what happened. Like everyone knows what happened, so I won't bore whatever. But if you just think of that, like over time, potato chips cost 5 times as much as they did 30 years ago. And I don't know if you remember if you had this like conversation with your grandparents, but I have young children. When I tell like Sebastian that a gallon of gas was 79 cents, he stares at me like I had like a horse and buggy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I don't know if I remembered that so much in the 80s because maybe I was a kid at that time, but I was getting a sense of prices and what things cost. I mean, and all this kind of stuff. But it is incredible to me when I buy things now where like it's just a bottle of Pepsi. Why is Pepsi $3 a bottle?
Right.
It's crazy.
Well, the thing is, look, we've been dealing with high prices, and we all know there are many reasons for that. The biggest one probably is that happy anniversary. 5 years ago this week is when the world shut down with COVID.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest reason, and the supply chain disruptions that ensued. But we've been dealing with inflation at around 2.5–3% for several years now. It was much higher than that, and then it came down. That has been here. But we've also had very strong, solid economic growth. We have had very low unemployment, lots of job creation, and in 23 and 24, 20 plus percentage point gains year over year in the S&P 500. So we've had all that together, right? The problem now is the modestly high inflation, not terribly high, but it's still here, and then all this other stuff on top of it, and that's the rub. But I want to talk about something else that kind of ties into this. This was breaking today. The Department of Education, which Trump has said he wants to get rid of.
Yeah.
They're going to apparently over the next few days, it's already begun, lay off half of their staff, over 1,000 people. And then all these other departments in D.C., there's a lot of talk that the Veterans Administration is going to aim for an 80,000 person reduction, and it's going to be tens of thousands in a lot of these other agencies. That's what they're going to try to do in April. We'll see how many people actually get let go. But there's a lot of people that work for the federal government, and when you have the economy kind of teetering as it is, and now you're laying off all of these people. And I just think about, for instance, for near where you live, we say the DC suburbs, you're fairly far away, but you're in that general area. And so
I go to DC like 4 times a week. Like
you're close enough.
Yeah.
And all those people now, one misnomer is that most federal workers live in DC. They don't.
They don't.
I think it's 80% of the federal workforce lives outside of the DC metro. But that still leaves 20% that works inside. That's a lot of people. And if you start shutting down some of these buildings and firing some of these people, I just think, what is that going to do to the local economy where you live?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's kind of a crazy time around here. I mean, people don't know, people in the federal government, whether they have jobs or not. I mean, contractors, I think there's more contractors than there are federal employees, honestly. And that's for a variety of reasons. Those contracts are in place and they're not going anywhere because they can't be turned over because that money was already spent by previous administration. So they're all sticking around for a while. All of that to say, I mean, there is some nervousness in the area. It just depends on what you do. Now, with that in mind, if you're a skilled, trained person, like, dude, everyone is hiring in DC all the time. I mean, much like LA, if you want a job, you can get one. It's not hard. around
Well,
here.
for now, that's not always been the case.
Well,
It
no,
may not be the case in 6 months, but you're right. For now, it is. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just saying the reason that major cities are major cities is because they employ a lot of people, generally speaking. When they don't employ a lot of people, they become Detroit and Cleveland and St. Louis. But I don't think either
Whoa.
LA or DC.
Why are you hating on the Midwest like this?
I'm
The
not
Midwest, you
hating
got
on
the
them. What I'm
Midwest
saying is
hate
they
tonight.
lost a lot of jobs,
They did.
right?
I want to. There's one other economic thing, kind of economic thing I wanted to touch on. Did you see the event today outside the White House with Trump and Elon Musk and all the Teslas?
No.
Okay. So Trump said yesterday that he was gonna buy a Tesla today.
Okay.
So they brought a
Does he
bunch of
drive?
Tesla. I don't think so. They brought
Why
up
would he?
what's the over under on the last time Donald Trump drove a motor vehicle?
I mean,
I'm
I
gonna
imagine
say
it. I imagine it.
on a highway.
Oh my God, 50 years.
Right. I'm going the over under because he's 78. I'm saying
Yeah.
it's at least 40 years. At
Yeah.
least. And it might be ever. Like
Right.
he may have never.
But why would you?
But so look, there's a lot of things to talk about here. On the one hand, the prospect of the president of the United States standing beside the richest person
man
in the world
for now.
at the White House and promoting in no uncertain terms that person's vehicles
Right.
is not, I think, a positive development for America. Could you imagine if Joe Biden brought the CEO of Ford to the White House, lined up Fords outside and said, I'm going to buy a Ford, you should too? Like that is, I mean, that's kind of like corruption out in the open.
However, corruption's a strong word.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Maybe not corruption. That is, I don't even know what the right word is. It's inappropriate.
Right. Inappropriate is probably better.
On the other hand, I will say the positive from it, if you're looking at kind of the net gain and net positive, as unseemly as I think it was, the early adapters who were driving electric vehicles, in particular Teslas, were mostly liberals. Like out here, when I first moved out here in 2019, before Elon Musk made his kind of heel turn, that Teslas were everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I had almost in my life, prior to that point, I had probably seen 5 Teslas on the road in my life prior to 2019, living in Texas, Missouri, Pennsylvania. Out here, 2019, 2020, 2021, they were everywhere. You would see 10 a day just in my Santa Monica neighborhood. I don't even drive that much. But so these are not conservatives for the most part buying, right? But what has happened now, and the reason Trump did this is because of Musk's active role in supporting Trump, getting him elected. Now with Doge, some of the crazy shit and conspiracy theories he said online, liberals are attacking him online and boycotting Tesla. They're saying don't buy Teslas. Sheryl Crow made a video the other day of selling her Tesla back. It's become like a thing on the left.
Yeah.
And Tesla stock is crashing.
Well, this is why businesses should not be in politics.
Right. So it is crushing Musk to be involved with government. Now, I would say he's kind of made that bed. Nobody forced him to do this. And it's not just that he got involved, it's that he got involved in such a partisan, nasty way.
Oh yeah.
And he's firing everyone go down that road. Right. So I look, you get what is coming to you, right? As Musk would say, fuck around and find out. I mean, he said that before. Well, that's what's happened. And so Trump is trying to prop up his business and help him because Tesla's getting killed right now. Their stock price is down, I think 30% this year. It's crazy.
Has politics ever affected your decision in buying anything?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No. But let me finish this point real quick.
Go ahead.
But so here's the positive of what happened today, even though I generally don't like it. We need to move toward electric vehicles much more quickly. We need a better adaptation to that in order to help save the planet, right? We are not getting there fast enough. And that is partially because a large number of people will not buy electric vehicles, even though they have started to become much more affordable for a larger number of people. And if Trump and Musk together can convince conservatives and Republicans to buy electric vehicles, then even though it was kind of unseemly at the White House today, it will actually be a net gain for the country because it would help get us there quicker to that transition. Because these liberals that are giving up their Teslas, they're still buying electric vehicles. They're just getting other brands now, right? So
Right.
because it's a lot of electric vehicle purchase. Of course, it's economic. We all know there's obviously an economic threshold, a minimum you have to be at. But once you're beyond that, a lot of it is just preference and culture. And
Right.
there's a cultural stigma in a lot of red America against electric vehicles. And so if this can help overcome that, because look, Trump's in one, right? Trump's buying one. That could be a good thing. So that's kind of my mixed feelings on it. But anyway, what was your thought about the
Well,
boycott?
I didn't offer that offhanded. I was like really thinking about it because I'm sure politics at some point played a decision in a purchase or something I bought or something I did. But I mean, I drive a Mercedes. They made vehicles for Nazis. Like I wasn't, I didn't consider that when I was buying it. I was like, well,
Right, that's all in the past.
well, you get what I'm saying, though, is if we start
Yes.
applying like what happened to all these things and what they believe and what they don't, it's going to be interesting. It's why I was always so bored about the Colin Kaepernick thing in the NFL or the Keurig machines. I don't even remember. I just remember my profile picture was a Keurig machine at one point because something happened. People were smashing them over
Yeah.
politics. I don't know. Like, look, Chick-fil-A, they maybe are not the biggest fans of homosexuals. They make a great chicken sandwich. You know what I'm saying? And
We've got to balance these things.
yeah, so obviously there is a real world effect on Elon Musk. And it's why Michael Jordan said when he was asked why he doesn't take political stances, he said Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yes.
So everything you said, I agree with. Musk made his own bed. He's got a lie in it. I was thinking the other day, what is Musk really getting out of this? Like, as a gain? I know what Trump gets out of it, but I don't understand what Elon gets out of it.
Okay. If you are being, let me give you the argument if you are not a fan of Musk. Here's what he's getting. The government is involved in his businesses, and his businesses are involved with government in many different ways.
Yeah.
SpaceX alone has hundreds of billions of dollars in contracts with the federal government. I have not heard Doge recommending any of those be cut, right? Now, that maybe they wouldn't be cut anyway. I want to be clear. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those contracts. I think SpaceX is a wonderful company. I think they're doing amazing things, and I hope they get human beings to Mars. I think that's a great company. I think he's done amazing things with Tesla. But there are multiple investigations involving Tesla, for instance. There are investigations involving things at SpaceX that were not done above board necessarily, that the government agencies were looking into.
Yeah.
It's unlikely, because they're so close, that Trump and his administration are going to crack down on his companies in any way. So
Probably
that
not.
is what he's getting. He is getting a loose hand of regulation, and he is going to get the benefit of the doubt on every call involving his companies as long as he is involved with the administration. So that is what he is getting. But what is he giving up? Well, he's giving up a massive amount of personal wealth.
Yes.
Because the Tesla stock is down now. It's its steepest loss in 5 years over the last couple of days. He's lost hundreds of billions of, or $100 billion in net worth, just his own personal net worth.
100 billion?
Yeah. So that is a lot of money that he has lost. A lot of money because of what has happened with Netflix.
He lost $23 billion on Monday.
Right. So he's lost 100 billion in value.
52 billion since the year started and 100 billion overall.
That's a lot of money.
I mean, in fairness, he still has like $400 billion. So I hope he's okay.
He's got more. He'll be all right. Right. And that's the point too, is yes. And remember, as you talked about earlier with your, when you were kind of explaining the market, these are unrealized gains.
Yeah.
So this is a loss on paper.
Right.
Nobody's going into
right. They don't go to his bank account and take it out.
Draining 100 billion. He's losing it on paper, which if his company is successful in the future, in the way that I wouldn't bet against him, he'll probably make that back up at some point. So you're saying, why would he do this? That's the argument, because to him it's worth it.
No, I just never asked the question. That's
no. I do think to be fair to him, whether you agree or disagree with him, I think he genuinely does believe that the government is bloated and inefficient and that we have a long-term debt crisis in America. And I agree with him on all those things. I don't necessarily agree with the way that he's going about this. And I'm glad he's been reined in to some degree over the last few weeks by cabinet secretaries, by Congress to some degree. And I hope that continues because I don't agree with the way he's doing it. But generally, the principle of we need to do something dramatic with our federal budget, including on the spending side, I am 100% with him on that. Now, the way he's behaved on X, the things he said, the outrageous conspiracy theories he's embraced and spread, the cesspool that X has become, to me, that is the damage of Elon Musk that goes far beyond Doge. Whatever you think about Doge, many of those cuts will eventually have to be approved by Congress.
Yeah.
And if there's a Democrat in charge in a few years, those things can be that are worth it reinstated. It hurts people in the short term. I want to be clear on that. I don't want to minimize that. The people that have lost their jobs, especially if they're good people and they should not have been let go, the programs that are good that have been shut down, which I think they've kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater. I think they've gotten rid of some programs that probably should have been gone, but some that shouldn't. Those things will cause real world damage. I don't want to minimize that. But my point is, you can undo on a large governmental level those things over time. But the damage to our politics, to our discourse, because X is, let's face it, it's not the biggest social media platform. It's definitely not the most profitable social media platform. But in terms of its influence on culture and politics, I would say it is probably the most impactful social media social media app. And it has become, in large degree, awful. And a lot of that is just simply because of Musk and what he's done.
Yeah, I never go on it.
And like just a small example. Yeah, 2 days ago, Mark Kelly, who served his country in the military and then served his country again as an astronaut, now a senator, went to Ukraine, reported back about how we need to support Ukraine, basically saying the same thing that most decent Americans have said since the war started. Ukraine's being attacked by Russia. We should help them out. It's good for us. And Musk just responded to his X post and called him a traitor. I'm like, what is wrong with you, dude? So look, to get back to what you said earlier, would I boycott Musk? I don't have an electric car. I do want to get one in my next car. I'll tell you this. I normally would never boycott anybody or any company because of their personal political opinions. But in this case, if it were close, I probably wouldn't buy a Tesla. And I'm about as reasonable a guy as you can get. I'm not someone out there in the resistance protesting in the streets. I just think he has done so much damage because it's not that he supported Trump. Fine, you support Trump, whatever. It's that he has embraced so many awful, crazy points of view, conspiracy theories, this anti-Ukraine sentiment, all of it. I just think he's gone so far. He's gotten into the range of what you talked about when you asked me earlier, would I boycott?
All right.
I might on this because I think it's gotten so extreme with him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long he'll last. I mean, do you think he's going to make it through a 4-year term doing this? I highly doubt it. Because when you have that much money and things aren't going well, like, what's it for Musk to just walk away?
Well, also, where are the Tesla shareholders? Like, at a certain point, I mean, yeah, I know he founded the company and he's the CEO, and I guess he has control of the board right now. But, I mean, at a certain point, if you are a board member of Tesla, this is happening all over the world.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
I'm not familiar with the inner workings of
I don't know.
board makeup. I don't know.
Maybe the board is just so loyal to him that
maybe he has all 14 of his kids on it, so he just has an overwhelming majority. I don't know.
Even the newborns, they have a voting share or something.
Yeah.
But I would think if there is a board that has some neutrality, like at a certain point, you just can't. You can't. This is one of the Magnificent Seven, as they call them, and of American companies. This is like one of our crown jewel companies in the United States of America, and to lose that much value is pretty bad. It's pretty bad, especially when it looks like it's not going to go away for him. He originally said 18 months. What he said, that he'd do it for 18 months. But we'll see. I mean, if you look at what happened over the last few weeks, He went to Congress, and Congress said, let us vote on this. There's a thing called rescission where Congress can vote, just a simple majority in the House and Senate, to pull back money. And they said, if you find cuts, bring them to us. We'll vote on rescission, which I totally support. That's the way it should be done. Congress has the power of the purse. Musk should be looking at things, and he should be identifying what he feels is waste, fraud, and abuse, or just money we shouldn't be spending, then bring it to Congress. And then there was a report of the New York Times that in a cabinet meeting last week, Rubio, the Secretary of State, and Musk got into it. They were yelling at each other because Musk didn't think Rubio had done enough. And Trump basically said, look, the cabinet secretaries are in charge of hiring and firing, not Musk. Again, great move. I totally support that. I wish those two things had been more clear at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right, of the administration, but I'm glad we're getting there. One other positive thing from the Trump administration, because we try to be fair, big development in a positive way on Ukraine today. It looks like we are back to sanity. I don't remember if I talked about this with you or with Charlie or with both. We talked about that Zelensky meeting, and I said I thought the mistake Zelensky made, even though it wasn't really his fault, and I agreed with pretty much everything he said, the mistake he made was making it about Ukraine rather than just kind of going along and saying, okay, yeah, let's do it your way. Because really the side that doesn't want pieces in Ukraine, it's Russia. So Ukraine just kind of needs to get out of the way and be like, yeah, we're good, and then put the focus on Russia. And that's what happened today in Saudi Arabia. Rubio was over there, and he agreed with the Ukrainians on a 30-day ceasefire. And Trump reinstated military aid and intelligence support to Ukraine, which it was shameful that was even suspended in the first place, but it's back now. And so Ukraine was like, yeah, we'll do a 30. And so now Rubio said today, the ball's in Russia's court. And that's exactly the right play for Ukraine.
Yeah.
Make Russia say no, because they're going to say no. Russia's, gaining small amounts of territory and losing lots of people in the process. They don't want a ceasefire. And so I think that was a really good development. So I want to give the Trump administration credit when I think credit is deserved. I don't like the way we got here, but we're here now, and that's a positive development. I did want to ask you about this. Have you heard about the pro-Palestinian anti-Israeli protester at Columbia who's been detained?
None of what you just said would shock me, but I haven't heard this yet.
Yes. So this is an interesting story. This is a gentleman who was a graduate student at Columbia in the United States on a green card.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of the leaders of the protests at Columbia. And what these were the anti-Israeli protests where they broke into buildings, basically took over the campus. He was detained, and the Trump administration's going to try to deport him. There's a hearing before a judge Wednesday. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, I don't know about this. Like, you're pulling someone who was a protester. But I will say, I looked into it a little more. And in the law, there is a big difference between a citizen and a green card.
Oh my God,
which makes sense, because a green card holder, even though they have a lot of the rights of Americans, they are here as a privilege.
You're right.
And one of the things it says is if you support terrorists or the Secretary of State feels that you're undermining U.S. foreign policy, you can be removed. This guy, very pro-Hamas guy, very pro-Palestinian guy. We'll see. I'm glad he's having a hearing. I think that's the way to go about this. A judge should decide this. But I'm okay with it as long as they can show that it was more than just protesting. We should not be grabbing people off the street just because they were protesting in the United States of America. Whether they're citizens or not, I'm very uncomfortable with that. But I wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to really expound upon what you just said. I'm going to look into this more, and I do agree that it's good he's getting a hearing, but that seems that's got to be SOP.
It is. Apparently, you can't do it without a hearing. So there's a hearing on Wednesday. That's what I mean. Right. So as long as you have a hearing and they go through the proper steps and they can show that he was actually in some way, because remember, Hamas is a terrorist organization.
Oh, yeah.
Designated by.
That's indisputable.
Right. So if he was giving material support to that organization in some way, as a non-citizen, I'm fine with kicking his ass out of the country. But I want him to have a hearing, and I'd be really uncomfortable if they apply this more broadly to people who are simply protesting. Because
Sure.
that is, I think, when you get into a dangerous, dangerous situation.